The rain was coming down in sheets, and Emma's car was barely making it through the slick streets. She tightened her grip on the wheel, glancing at the clock. It was 6:47 p.m., and the thought of sitting through another quiet dinner with her husband felt heavier than ever. She wasn't exactly sure why, but something in the air felt off. Her phone buzzed on the passenger seat. A message from her husband, Mark. "Dinner's ready, don't be late." She sighed and parked, stepping into the warm glow of their apartment building. The smell of roasted garlic and fresh bread hit her immediately. Mark greeted her with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Hey, you're just in time. Someone's here to see you." Emma raised an eyebrow. "Someone?" Mark's grin widened, but there was a flicker of hesitation. "It's Ryan. You remember Ryan, my friend from college?" Emma froze. Ryan? She hadn't thought about him in years. He was the guy who had always had this calm, almost magnetic presence. And now he was back, standing in their living room as if no time had passed at all. Ryan's eyes met hers, and Emma felt an unexpected flutter in her chest. He had changed. The confident, easygoing guy she remembered had matured into someone sharper, more intense. For a moment, she wondered if her heart was playing tricks on her. "Emma," Ryan said, his voice smooth and familiar, "it's been a long time." She nodded, smiling politely. "It really has. How have you been?" The three of them sat down to dinner, but the conversation felt strange. Ryan and Mark chatted easily about old college memories, while Emma found herself distracted by Ryan's subtle glances in her direction. There was something in his look that made her stomach tighten. After dinner, Mark offered Ryan a drink. The three of them moved to the living room. Emma tried to join the conversation, but it felt like she was invisible at times. Ryan seemed more interested in her than she had expected. Each glance, each slight smile, carried a weight she couldn't explain. Mark excused himself to take a call, leaving Emma and Ryan alone for the first time in years. The room suddenly felt smaller, the rain outside louder. Ryan leaned back in his chair, watching her with an intensity she didn't like, and didn't want to admit she did. "You've changed," he said softly. Emma blinked. "I guess we all have." "No," he said, shaking his head. "You're different, but in a good way. I mean, I don't know how to explain it." She laughed nervously, trying to brush it off. "Well, I hope that's a compliment." "It is," Ryan said, his eyes holding hers longer than comfortable. "It really is." Emma suddenly felt a mix of nostalgia, curiosity, and confusion. This was the same Ryan she had known, but there was an edge to him she couldn't place. Her mind raced. Why had he come back now, and why did his presence unsettle her so much? Mark returned, and the moment broke, but the tension lingered. Ryan's glance followed her subtly, making her wonder if she was imagining the effect he had on her. Later, when Mark and Ryan were talking about plans for the weekend, Emma found herself staring out the window, lost in thought. She couldn't shake the feeling that tonight would change something, though she had no idea what. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. She shook her head, trying to focus on mundane thoughts, but she couldn't ignore the way Ryan's look had lingered in her mind. Something was about to happen, she could feel it, and deep down, she knew she wasn't ready for it. The rain continued to patter against the window, and Emma felt a strange mixture of excitement and apprehension. She sensed that tonight's encounter with Ryan would stir up feelings she hadn't confronted in years. As she sipped her tea, a sudden knock at the door startled her. She wasn't expecting anyone else. Who could it be at this hour, in the middle of a storm? Her hand hesitated on the doorknob, her heart beating faster. Whoever it was, this night wasn't going to stay ordinary for long. Emma slowly opened the door, and her eyes widened. It wasn't a neighbor or delivery. It was Ryan. He was standing there, soaked from the rain, holding his jacket awkwardly in one hand. "I hope I'm not intruding," he said, his voice calm but carrying that familiar intensity. "I just thought we could talk for a minute." Emma stepped aside, feeling her chest tighten. "Sure, come in. You're drenched." He shook off the rain, and water dripped onto the floor. She grabbed a towel for him, and their fingers brushed for a split second. That brief contact sent a jolt through her she hadn't felt in years. She shook her head, scolding herself. "Get a grip, Emma." Ryan looked around, noticing the cozy apartment she and Mark shared. "This place, it's nice, really nice." "Thank you," she said softly, avoiding his gaze. "We've made it homey over the years." He smiled, a little wistfully. "I remember your old apartment in college. It wasn't anything like this." Emma laughed lightly. "Things change." There was a pause. She could feel his eyes on her, and it made her uneasy. "Why are you here, Ryan? I mean, it's been years." He sighed, a small, weary sound. "I know. I just wanted to see you, see how you've been, and I guess maybe say something I didn't get to back then." Emma's stomach twisted. Something in his tone made her pulse quicken. She wanted to ask what he meant, but the words caught in her throat. Just then, Mark called from the living room. "Emma, are you okay? Ryan?" Emma turned quickly. "Yes, we're fine, just catching up." Mark didn't press further. He seemed absorbed in conversation, leaving them alone again. The room felt charged, the storm outside matching the tension inside. Ryan stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I never stopped thinking about you, Emma. Back in college, you were always different, special. I didn't say anything then, and I regret it." Emma's heart skipped. The words were gentle, but the effect was heavy. She shook her head slightly, trying to dismiss it. "Ryan, we're married now. You can't—" "I know," he interrupted softly. "I know, and I respect that. I'm not here to cause problems." She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that this was just old nostalgia resurfacing, but his gaze lingered, searching, and she felt a connection she couldn't explain. Ryan moved to sit across from her. "I just needed to see you, even if it's just for a few minutes, to know that you're happy." Emma looked at him, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. She wanted to say more, to reach across the table and explain how confusing this felt, but she couldn't, not with Mark in the other room. The storm raged on outside, and Emma felt trapped in a swirl of emotions she hadn't anticipated. Ryan's presence stirred memories, regrets, and feelings she thought she had long buried. "Ryan," she whispered, almost to herself, it's complicated." He nodded, understanding, yet there was a vulnerability in his expression. "I know, but I had to come back. I couldn't leave without trying to make peace with things." Emma's mind raced. She wondered what things he meant and why the moment felt so electric yet so dangerous. She tried to steady herself, to focus on the present. Mark was in the next room, and this was supposed to be a normal evening. Suddenly, Ryan leaned forward slightly. "Promise me something?" Emma hesitated. "What?" "Promise me you'll remember this night, that no matter what happens, you won't forget that I came back to see you." Hit her harder than she expected. She felt a shiver run down her spine. For years, she had moved on, built a life with Mark, and yet, here he was, stirring something she thought was long gone. She nodded slowly, unable to trust her voice. I promise. Ryan smiled softly, but there was sadness in it. Good. That's all I needed. The clock ticked, marking each second with sharp clarity. Emma's heart raced. She wanted to ask him so many things, but the right words seemed to vanish. Before she could speak again, Ryan stood. I should go. I don't want to overstay. Emma watched him, feeling a hollow ache as he gathered his jacket. Something about the way he left, quiet, respectful, yet leaving a heavy presence, made her realize the night had just begun to unravel her carefully built life. As he stepped into the rain again, Emma stood at the doorway, watching him disappear into the storm. A mix of longing and fear filled her chest. She closed the door slowly, leaning against it. The apartment felt too quiet now, too still. Her mind was spinning with questions she couldn't answer. Had Ryan always had this effect on her, or was it something about tonight, something in the way he looked at her, that made everything feel uncertain? She turned to Mark, who was humming softly in the living room. Emma forced a smile, but inside, her heart was tangled in a storm far worse than the one outside. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the blinds, cutting across the living room like it wanted to wake Emma from the restless night. She was still thinking about Ryan, about the way he had looked at her, the words he had said. Her mind refused to settle. "Mornin', love," hummin' as he made coffee. "Mornin', love. Sleep okay?" Emma forced a smile. "Yeah, fine. Just tired, I guess." He glanced at her, a faint furrow in his brow. "You sure? You've been quiet since last night." Emma shook her head. "Just thinking about work and errands. Nothing to worry about." But the truth was, she couldn't stop thinking about Ryan. Every memory of him back in college, every laugh they had shared, every small gesture that had once felt innocent now seemed loaded with meaning. And now he was back, in her life, and it confused her in ways she didn't want to admit. Later that afternoon, Emma went to the local market to pick up groceries. She tried to lose herself in routine, but every sound of rain dripping from the eaves reminded her of Ryan. Her heart beat faster whenever she imagined that calm, intense look he had given her last night. When she returned home, Mark was on a call. She set the groceries down quietly, trying to focus on putting things away. But the sound of the doorbell made her freeze. It was Ryan again. She wasn't sure if her pulse was from excitement or dread. "Ryan, again?" she said, trying to keep her voice steady. I know, I'm interrupting," he said, holding his hands up, "but I couldn't leave without talking to you for a few more minutes." Emma stepped aside and let him in. This time, there was a subtle hesitation in his movements, almost as if he was trying to be careful not to cross boundaries. Yet the energy between them was undeniable. He looked around, noticing the small details of her home. "It really suits you. You and Mark, you've made it a warm place." "Thank you," Emma said softly. She wanted to ask why he was here again, why he was stirring up so many feelings she had tried to bury, but the words wouldn't come. They sat together on the couch. Ryan's eyes searched hers, looking for something she couldn't name. "Emma, do you ever think about the past? About what could have been?" Her heart thumped in her chest. She looked down, trying to avoid his gaze. "Sometimes," she admitted, "but I don't dwell on it. I'm happy with my life now." "I can see that," Ryan said quietly. "I can see that you've built something meaningful. But I had to know if part of you ever wondered about me, about us, even a little." Emma swallowed hard. She didn't know how to respond. Every instinct told her to distance herself, but a part of her wanted to confess the flutter of emotions she felt whenever he looked at her. Ryan reached out, just slightly, his fingers brushing hers for a brief, fleeting moment. "I don't want to cause trouble, I promise. I just needed you to know that I thought about you all these years." I understand," she whispered. She wanted to say more, but the fear of what she might reveal kept her silent. The sound of Mark's voice calling her name from the kitchen made her start. "Emma, are you okay?" She nodded quickly. "Yes, just thinking." Ryan stood, giving her a soft smile. "I should go. I won't intrude again. I just had to do this." Emma watched him walk to the door, the tension between them lingering in the air like a heavy curtain. Once he left, she sank into the couch, her hands trembling slightly. Mark returned from his call and noticed her distant expression. "Emma, what's going on? You've been so distracted all day." I don't know," she admitted. "It's just a lot of memories, I guess. Seeing an old friend." Mark frowned, but didn't press further. Still, Emma could feel a subtle tension growing between them, an unspoken acknowledgement that something in her had shifted, even if just slightly. That evening, as rain began to fall again, Emma sat by the window, staring at the streets glistening under the dim lights. She thought about Ryan, about the intensity in his eyes, the words he had spoken. She tried to convince herself it was harmless nostalgia. But deep down, she knew it wasn't. Something had awakened inside her, feelings she thought were long gone, memories she couldn't ignore, and a curiosity she didn't want to face. And somewhere in the back of her mind, she wondered, why now? Why had Ryan returned at this exact moment in her life? The storm outside seemed to echo her inner turmoil. She felt as if she was standing on the edge of something, an emotional cliff that could either fall into the past or pull her deeper into the present. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Mark. "Dinner tomorrow at 7. Don't be late." She put it down, her thoughts wandering back to Ryan's visit. She knew the evening had changed something. She just didn't know what. And as the rain tapped against the window, a quiet fear and longing coiled inside her. Tonight, she realized, would be a night she couldn't forget. The next evening, Emma found herself pacing the living room. She had tried to focus on small tasks, tidying up and folding laundry, but her thoughts kept drifting back to Ryan. The intensity in his eyes, the way he had spoken, she couldn't shake it. Mark came home right on time, carrying groceries. "Hey, everything okay?" he asked, noticing the restless way she moved around the room. "Yeah, I'm fine," she replied quickly, forcing a smile. "Just thinking." Mark set the bags down and watched her for a moment. "You've been quiet all day. Is it Ryan again?" Emma froze, her heart racing. He stopped by twice, that's all, nothing more." Mark nodded slowly, but she sensed a shadow of worry in his eyes. He didn't press, but Emma knew he could feel the tension in the air. She tried to push it aside, to focus on the evening. Dinner was unusually silent. The rain outside was relentless, pounding against the windows like an echo of Emma's own unease. Mark tried to talk about work, sports, and weekend plans, but Emma's mind kept returning to Ryan. After dinner, Mark went to the kitchen to wash dishes, leaving Emma alone in the living room. The silence felt heavy, and she hugged a cushion to her chest, staring out at the stormy night. Her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. She opened it and froze. It was Ryan. "I know I shouldn't, but I can't stop thinking about last night. Can we talk?" Her pulse quickened. She didn't know what to feel. Anxiety, excitement, guilt. She debated ignoring it, but curiosity won. She typed a short reply. "Just a quick conversation, that's all." A few minutes later, there was a soft knock at the door. Emma opened it, and Ryan was standing there, holding his jacket and dripping wet again from the rain. "I didn't mean to disturb you," he said, his voice low. "I just needed to see you one more time." Emma stepped aside. "Okay, but just for a moment." They moved to the couch, sitting across from each other. Neither spoke at first. The storm outside filled the silence, matching the storm inside Emma's chest. Ryan finally broke it. "Emma, I shouldn't be here. I know that, but I can't ignore what I feel." Emma swallowed hard. "Ryan, I'm married. You know that." "I do," he said softly, almost pained. "And I respect it. But I had to tell you. I never stopped caring. I never stopped wondering what it would have been like if things had been different." Emma's heart twisted. She had built a life with Mark, one filled with love, trust, and stability. But Ryan's words, his presence, made her question the strength of her own feelings. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. I'm happy with Mark. I love him." Ryan nodded. "I know, and I won't push anything. I needed you to know, that's all. You don't have to say anything." Emma looked down, her hands trembling slightly. She wanted to reach out, to tell him that she understood, that part of her had missed him too, but the words wouldn't come. Suddenly, her phone buzzed again. It was Mark. "I'm heading to the store. Be back in a bit. Dinner later?" Emma's stomach sank. Time was running out, and she didn't want Ryan to stay when Mark returned. She stood. "You should go," she said, softly. Ryan nodded, standing as well. His eyes lingered on hers for a long moment. "I'll go, but thank you for listening. That means more than I can say." He walked to the door, and for a fleeting second, Emma felt a pang of loss. She knew this wasn't the last she would think of him. Once he left, Emma closed the door slowly and leaned against it. Her hands were shaking. Her heart felt heavy, tangled in emotions she didn't fully understand. Mark returned shortly after, and Emma forced a smile. "Hey, welcome back." "Everything okay?" he asked, noticing the tension in her shoulders. "Yes, just a long day," she replied, keeping her voice steady. Later that night, Emma lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Ryan's words and presence echoed in her mind. She loved Mark, yes, but a part of her wondered if she had truly moved on from the past. The rain outside had stopped, but inside, the storm raged on. She realized that Ryan's return had stirred feelings she hadn't faced in years, and she wasn't sure how to make sense of them. A knock on the bedroom window made her heart jump. She went to see, but the street was empty, just the faint glow of a street lamp. Yet she couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change, something that could alter the course of her heart and her life. The next morning, Emma woke with a heavy heart. The memories of Ryan's visits were still fresh, and she felt a strange mixture of guilt and longing. She got dressed quietly, not wanting to wake Mark, and tried to push the thoughts away, but they wouldn't leave her. Mark kissed her goodbye before heading to work. "See you tonight," he said, smiling. Emma nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. The day dragged. Every little sound made her think it might be Ryan returning. She found herself pacing the apartment, restless and uneasy. When her phone buzzed, her stomach sank. She hoped it wasn't Ryan, but it was just a notification from a friend. Relief washed over her. By evening, Emma decided she couldn't ignore her feelings anymore. She needed clarity, closure, whatever this was that Ryan had stirred inside her. She went to the window, looking out at the streets glistening from the afternoon rain. She saw nothing, but in her mind, she imagined Ryan walking up to the door again. When Mark returned, he was cheerful, carrying groceries. "Hey, love, look what I got for dinner tonight." Emma smiled faintly, forcing herself into the moment. "That smells amazing." They began preparing dinner together, chopping vegetables and stirring sauces. For a while, the comfort of routine helped her relax, but a shadow of unease lingered. She realized she couldn't stop thinking about Ryan, not his words exactly, but the way he had made her feel seen, remembered, and unsettled. After dinner, Mark cleaned up while Emma sat with a cup of tea, staring out the window again. The room was quiet, peaceful, but her heart wasn't. She remembered Ryan's look, the intensity in his eyes, the weight behind every word. Then she heard a knock at the door. Her heart jumped. She wasn't sure if it was fear or anticipation. She opened it to find Ryan standing there one last time. His expression was calm, but there was a sadness in his eyes. "Emma, I promise this is the last time," he said quietly. "I just needed to say goodbye properly." Emma stepped aside, her chest tight. "Ryan, I don't know what to say." He shook his head. "You don't have to. I just needed you to know that seeing you again, it reminded me of everything I felt all those years ago, and it made me realize I have to let go." Tears pricked Emma's eyes. I understand," she whispered. "Thank you for telling me." He smiled softly, a gentle, bittersweet smile. "You're happy with Mark, right?" "Yes," she said firmly, though her voice trembled. "I love him." "That's good," Ryan said. "That's what matters." For a long moment, they stood silently, both aware of the unspoken emotions lingering between them. Then, finally, Ryan turned and walked into the night. Emma closed the door, leaning against it, as if letting go physically might help release the emotions in her heart. She felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. The storm within her had calmed, but the echoes of Ryan's presence would linger in memory, a reminder of the paths not taken and the depth of emotions life sometimes stirs unexpectedly. Mark came into the living room, noticing her thoughtful expression. "Everything okay?" Emma smiled softly. "Yes, I think so. Just remembering old friends." He smiled back, taking her hand. "I love you, Emma, no matter what." Her heart swelled with gratitude and love. She realized that while the past could stir feelings, the present, the life she had built, the love she shared with Mark, was what truly mattered. That night, as Emma lay beside him, she reflected on Ryan's visits. They had been a test of her emotions, a reminder of what she valued most. And now, with clarity, she felt a renewed sense of peace. She closed her eyes, the memory of Ryan fading gently, replaced by the warmth of Mark's embrace. The storm had passed, both outside and within, leaving a quiet, enduring sense of love and certainty. Emma knew life could bring surprises, old friends could return, and emotions could surface unexpectedly. But what mattered most was the love she chose to nurture and protect every day. And in that calm, Emma finally felt truly at home.